Credit card companies are facing some new pressure to report gun sales, but House Republicans are pushing back, saying the move would violate Second Amendment rights and infringe on law-abiding citizens. Joining us live with the latest on what's happening in Capitol Hill, congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukart. Kilmeny, good afternoon.
Bianca, good afternoon. House Republicans have sent a letter to the CEOs of Visa, MasterCard, and American Express demanding to know how they plan to implement a move by the internal organization of standardization to use merchant category codes that would identify gun and ammunition sales. Elise Stefanik, the third-ranking House Republican, writing, "There is no accepted, consistent, scientific or legitimate way to determine from this data what is and what is not a suspicious purchase. Instead, this is a transparent attempt to chill the exercise of constitutionally protected rights and to circumvent existing legal restrictions on the creation of firearm registries by the government." Well, New York's Attorney General Letitia James has advocated for the measure, tweeting, "Credit card companies must now take the next step and flag suspicious transactions on gun and ammunition sales like they do for fraud and money laundering. By working together and using the tools at our disposal, we will help protect our communities and save lives." Well, Republican Congressman Lance Gooden tweeted, "Visa, MasterCard, and Amex's plan to categorize gun sales separately is a blatant attack on the Second Amendment. These woke corporations have two options: abandon the partisan plan or answer to a Republican House next Congress." Well, credit card companies, Bianca, they had initially rejected this, saying that it would set a dangerous precedent. They didn't want to have a moral obligation to determine which goods could legally be sold. But as it indicates in that letter, they may be on board following Amalgamated Bank, who started implementing MCCs in June of this year. But Republicans are really arguing at this point that the plan opens a back door to unofficial gun registration, and it will also hurt small businesses.
All important questions. Kilmeny Dukart, thank you for that live update on Capitol Hill. And joining us now to discuss this a bit further, former Trump 2016 foreign policy advisor and Newsmax contributor George Papadopoulos, and also joining us, retired Navy SEAL, former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam. Gentlemen, great to have you in with me. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
Well, I think there's a real concern. Even credit cards, the companies initially didn't want to do this, and now we see them flip-flopping. First to you, Jonathan. What is this data going to be stored? Where is it going to be used? We're not surprised New York's for it. Mayor Eric Adams is all about this. But what's your biggest concern that you have credit card companies tracking these gun purchases?
I look at this the exact same way I look at Mark Zuckerberg when he talked about how the FBI had approached him around the Hunter Biden laptop issue and told them to monitor and potentially censor the stuff. So what happens when they do that, or when they approach these banks and they just say that this is what they'd like to see, or they put that out and then the companies willingly do it? The companies are being tasked by the government, which means they are agents of the government. So when that's the case, it's no different than if the government was tracking whatever sales that you have, or if they were censoring your information online. These people are acting as agents of the government, and therefore they are violating the Second Amendment when it comes to the guns, and they're violating your First Amendment when it comes to your speech. Right now, I can't post videos on YouTube, just like when the last election happened. They suddenly come up and tell us that we can't post videos because we have strikes on us. It's the same thing here, and it's very peculiar in the timing in which it happens.
The timing of it all. It's the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, as you mentioned. George, we're living in a climate where people are distrustful of, the FBI. They're distrustful of, big tech, and with good reason why. We had some social media hearings on Capitol Hill. There was explosive testimony from the Twitter whistleblower. I'll say that 3 times fast. But basically saying that there was a Chinese operative working at Twitter. It's pretty surprising and alarming that Twitter is not doing anything to get this person out. I mean, we're talking not only censorship from our government, but possibly invasion of the CCP.
And look, Bianca, Twitter and other social media companies are the 21st century's public square. That's where people are supposed to actually have the ability to exchange in a free manner their thoughts and opinions without various restrictions, especially in America, where we do have a constitution, a sacred Bill of Rights that is supposed to safeguard against this type of government overreach. And I also don't think it's a coincidence that the majority of Republicans today believe that the Biden administration and the federal government have essentially become deputized to not only enforce a woke ideology upon the American public, but also to withhold critical stories leading up to elections and to persecute their political opponents. And that's also why I think in recent polling, we have seen such a low approval rating by Republicans of the FBI under the Wray leadership. So when you have this information coming out from this whistleblower regarding a Chinese spy infiltrating Twitter and essentially having access to millions of Americans' data and records, that's something that we need to know more about. That's something that Congress needs to conduct proper oversight of, and we need to have the CEO of Twitter come in and have a hearing to finally understand what Twitter is doing to safeguard Americans' rights, because in combination with how the intel agencies have run amok, the bloated federal government under the Biden administration, and now the CCP infiltrating Twitter, this sets a very dangerous precedent for American security and liberty.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into TikTok as well, refusing to comply with halting the company's flow of American data to China. These are big issues, Jonathan, that Americans need to be aware of, especially if they're using these platforms. Just about a minute left, but there is this story, Jonathan, I want you to react to. The Post says Facebook spying on private messages of American users. They report them to the FBI if they're expressing anti-government sentiments or if they're talking about election results. This is where we are today. What's your message to our viewers, to folks that are posting on social media?
Listen, this is exactly what has to happen. People need to listen very clearly. They need to start standing together, and they need to start calling their congressmen and getting this GOP that we elect people to go fight our fights for us in Washington, D.C. to stand up. Because I know that there's 100 of them that went out and sent a letter to these different banks. There needs to be every single Republican in Washington, D.C. meeting with these banks, meeting with these social media companies, and fighting this fight. Because right now, what's happening to us is not that much different than what's happening to President Trump. But we don't have attorneys and money to fight the fight. We utilize or depend on the Republican Party. And right now, we just don't have that.
Very chilling what's happening. Jonathan, George, great to have you in, gentlemen. Thanks so much, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
real news
For real people.